Hey guys, I'm in beautiful Santa Clara, California, right across from ELV Motors. These guys carry a lot of the BESV bikes, and I've seen them scattered throughout the country. Really premium design, something that's, in this case, designed to be affordable, approachable, but still stylish. And it is a little bit more expensive than similarly spec'd bikes, but the super low standover height, the clean, all that, the wires are integrated, the integrated headlight, that's what really sets this bike apart, and it performs really well too. So this is the CF1. It's priced at $17.99. Used to be a little bit more expensive, but they've been bringing their prices down, and it comes in two different frame sizes. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to demonstrate here, along with the different colors. It's gray, gloss white, and gloss black. This is actually a prior year model, so there are a few things that are different on it, including where the lock is placed there, and the charging port. It's under the headlight in the front. So I'm not gonna focus on this one quite as much, but if you have it, or maybe you're seeing last year's model and it's even cheaper or whatever, I just wanted to give you an idea of what it looks like. The tires, they're branded BESV right there, but it actually says Duro Easy Ride. Not really a brand that I've heard of. I just don't recognize them as much, but they do have a reflective sidewall, and they're slightly larger. So these are 28 by 2 inches versus 26 by 2 inches on the 17-inch frame. So 17-inch frame, 19-inch frame. A little bit taller standover height, not much though, and then a little bit longer reach. They both have that adjustable angle stem, so I would call both of these more of an upright or kind of a comfortable neighborhood type of bike. The stems are in the full upright position right now. They could be put forward if you have longer arms or you want that more aggressive, sporty riding position, but clearly both of them are up, so I think that's the kind of people who have been test riding these. Why don't we jump over from this one then back to the other one? And before we go, I want to point out that the wheels, they're still really nice, double wall aluminum alloy. They have those reinforcement eyelets so they can handle a little bit more weight. They also have 13 gauge spokes in the rear, 14 up front. So 14, a little bit more flexible, lightweight. I think that's 32 hole versus 36. So there's a lot on these bikes. It's not just like, we tossed a motor on a cheap bike frame. It's like custom, totally designed to be electric, to support that weight, and to give you a natural riding experience, one that over time should hold up, whether you're going long distances or carrying a bunch of cargo. You can see the rack back here. Notice that how custom it is. Like, it kind of matches its matte black, which matches the fenders versus the gloss black. And over here we have sort of a silver. It's not quite the same like aluminum silver, but it's nice. The same fenders matching. So that's what I'm talking about. Those are the little highlights on these bikes. Now, the rack isn't like the world's strongest. According to this weight rating, maximum 20 kilograms. That's 44 pounds. A lot of aftermarket racks say up to 55 pounds. I can't say one way or the other, but I see how far back it is. That's because this saddle has a handle, and if you bring it all the way down because you're a petite rider with, lower inseam, or shorter inseam, a lot of times if you put your own rack on, they end up right here, and then the saddle collides with the rack, and you end up with a problem. This actually separates your cargo a little bit better. It gives you the full range of the seat height, and you've even got a pannier blocker here, so you could put on side bags. Just really nicely done. And look, they've even got a mounting bracket here on the bottom to secure the fender. It's nice flower, and one right here, and one right there, and one right here that's a little bit adjustable. Very, very nicely done. When I was test riding this bike around the neighborhood, I know it's a little noisy right now because I'm on the street, but it's very quiet, and we'll get to that later. So I just wanted to point out how nice this bike is, how they really thought through just the different components. So let's get back into it. 10-speed drivetrain. This is pretty nice stuff. This is Shimano Dior, several steps up from the base model. A lot of times cheaper bikes have Tourney or Acera, Altus, that kind of thing. This one, Dior, with 10 gears, that's going to make it easier to ride at low speed, to carry cargo if you have to, or get up to their top assisted speed of 18 miles per hour. Now, that's slightly lower. A lot of electric bikes in the US can get up to 20. Some can even go to 28 because they're commuter bikes. But 18 is pretty fast, and that might help to extend your range a little bit. You're not going to get as much air resistance. The motor's going to be able to operate more efficiently. Not the world's biggest motor. This is a 250 watt nominally rated internally geared hub motor, silver. It's tucked in, almost completely covered by that large ring on the rear. So it blends in. I love that. It's relatively quiet, fairly efficient. Geared hub motors are known for being lightweight and compact, and that's exactly what you get right here. Now the battery, that's a real highlight. It's built right into this down tube, top tube combination. This is a wave frame. It's not the kind of battery that you can easily take out, but I am told that if and when the battery expires someday, you can take off that bottom bracket and slide out the battery and replace it. It's a 36 volt, 8.4 amp hour. I would say that's a little bit below average in terms of capacity, but that might reduce the weight. The overall weight of this bike is 49.5 pounds. And then if you get into the larger frame with the bigger wheels and stuff, 51.2. Okay, so there's a little bit of a weight difference, but considering you got the fenders, the rack, even an included frame lock. This is an ABIS cafe lock where a rod slides right through the spokes and disables the rear wheel. That's nice. That's a pretty good weight rating, in my opinion. And then you've got other highlights, like on this chainring up here, there's an alloy bash guard. So if you come into contact with a curb, or if you have a pants or a dress, they're gonna be a little bit more protected. It doesn't have a guide, which would be a second plate on the inside, so that chain could potentially fall off, but I haven't had any problems with it. I think it looks pretty nice. But then on the other hand, you know, if you do have a dress, this is still a little bit exposed versus actually having a full chain cover. So, I don't know, trade-offs. There's this neoprene slap guard, so if you're going on rough terrain, the chain won't nick up your frame. It's gonna stay looking nice. On the rear, we have 11 millimeter axle with nuts. Doesn't have quick release, but the front does. This is a standard 9 millimeter with quick release. Easier to take that front wheel off and put this in your car, you know, turn your handlebars sideways, but then that fender's still gonna stick out. It's definitely smaller and lighter that way. It also just makes changing flat tires easier, servicing the brakes. The brakes are decent. These are Tektro mechanical. They've got those awesome levers with the rubberized edge, integrated bell, 180 millimeter rotors. That's great. Tektro Aquila is what it says for that hardware part. You know, I prefer hydraulic disc brakes because you can activate them a little bit easier, and you can even adjust the brake lever reach, so you could bring them in a little bit. But this is one of the cost savings, and I think, you know, they match. Considering that mechanical isn't quite as like high-end and responsive as hydraulic, it's nice that they went with the higher end or the larger size brake rotors. So they really balance things out. You'll notice that the motor cable comes back along the left-hand side here. This is the chainstay on the left. You know, this cable, I don't see like a quick disconnect right here, just goes right into the bottom of the frame. So if you're taking off the wheel to do maintenance, not only do you have to deal with like the brake and then the derailleur cables and everything, but now there's this extra cable and it's just tacked on with zip ties. So you might have to cut the zip ties, and you got to keep that wheel really close to the bike. Otherwise it's going to be pulling on that cable, like where it enters the axle. That's a bummer. That's really not the best design. And if this bike tips, or if you're going along and it snags, if this ever gets bent or broken completely, that's it. You're gonna need a new motor or a whole new rear wheel. So, you know, room for improvement. Also, where the kickstand is mounted here, this is Ursus adjustable length. It stows nicely, it's compact, but it's right there. You can actually see some scraping because this pedal goes back and does that. And a lot of times people have this bike parked, they start walking it around, and when you walk the bike, those crank arms naturally turn if you're walking it backwards. So let's try that. So pretend it's in your garage and you're like, I'm just gonna back it out. And it collides, and now you can't go back anymore, and you're kind of like, oh, I gotta lift the bike, or I gotta kind of hop on one foot. And you know, that's why a lot of the electric bikes and bikes in general now are moving that kickstand back here. But then as you can see, it gets in the way of all these other cables and stuff. That's one of the challenges of a hub motor versus a mid-drive. Mid-drives are a lot more expensive, but they bring weight forward and down. In this case, a battery's front and relatively low. So, you know, it's decent, and you know, the cost savings. This is also a little bit zippier. It's using a cadence sensor that you can actually see right here. Don't know how many magnets are inside. I'm guessing it might be 12. Relatively responsive. It means you don't really have to push to get the motor to respond. You just have to move. BESV calls it a speed sensor, but it's really just your crank arms moving past these magnets in here, and it's giving an on or off signal. 3 levels of assist. It works okay once the bike is going, but if you're starting from standstill, it can be kind of, you know, you've really got to get that first half rotation before the sensor picks up the movement. So that first little step can be difficult. And this is a class 1 pedal assist. There's no throttle or anything. It's all up to you getting it to go. Here is the charging port on the newer frame. I don't know if I like it better or not, because when it was up here, you don't have to worry about the pedals, the crank arms passing it, or, you know, this is nice because it's low, but that was nice because it was out of the way of the crank arms. So, I don't know. Food for thought, just something to be careful on. It's a proprietary, unique little plug, and I actually have the charger over here, 1.1 pounds. Very small, compact. There's the end. It's threaded, metal, might hold up a little bit better. Easy to toss this in a bag and take it with you and charge up at your friend's house. And given the size of the battery, you know, I think they estimate 5 hours, but the first half of the battery fills very quickly. So you could fill it pretty, you know, maybe even halfway in an hour and a half, which is really nice. 30.9 millimeter seat post diameter, so you could swap that out and get a thud buster or something just to smooth out the ride, because this is an all aluminum rigid frame. You'll notice there's no suspension fork. This is just aluminum alloy. That can be a little bit uncomfortable, but when you bring the handlebars up, you got those ergonomic grips, a little bit of an enlarged saddle. You know, it's pretty comfortable. The 2-inch wide tires and these nicer tires, remember when I was talking about the more generic brand that's used over there? These ones are Schwabe, which is like top end, Big Apple. They've got K-Guard, that's puncture protection built in. They've even got a reflective sidewall stripe, so that adds to the visibility. Now this headlight, that's a real neat, kind of fancy, they call it like diamond cut, 40 lux. It's certified in Germany, so it's not gonna shine up into the car's eyes. It's supposed to stay down and just give you visibility onto the road. It should keep you kind of visible, and you know, maybe the way the plastic's built, they could be seen a little bit from the side. But I probably get like a white or silver bike if it were me, just so cars see me, to increase my visual footprint. The black is classy, but you're not showing up quite as much. There's also the integrated rear light. So both of these run off the main battery pack. That's awesome, but the headlight doesn't really turn when you steer. So if I'm turning left, it's pointing straight. And that's, you know, I don't know. It's a style thing. This whole bike is very stylish. So this is Pongo. He's my buddy. We've been going on some walks lately. And I thought it would be fun to show you just how this looks with the light on. So let's check it out. We got the bike's turned on, the different levels of assist, all the way up to 3. There we go. And then the headlight. So I accidentally bumped it before, but you can see the wall over there. There's low, and there's high. And there is a little bit of a glow. Hey, buddy, I know. There's a bit of a glow from the side. And it does keep, see how it's not going too high? It's not like this big circle. And that's what they were talking about in Germany, where you don't want to blind other cyclists or cars. But the thing is, when you steer the bike, you know, nothing happens. The light's still straight the whole time. So that was my gripe earlier. But overall, pretty good. And now watch when I turn it off. It does a little dance. You hold the button for a few seconds. There we go. There's that orange and then red. And those are the different levels of charge. You know, the grips do match the saddle. They look really nice. The brake levers, beautiful. The headlight, it's going to be tougher. You're not going to have to worry about bumping it or taking it off or anything. At least it has a headlight. You don't have to replace the batteries. So the final step here would be to turn this thing on. And it's pretty cool the way it works. You just press this power button, and go blue, flashes a little bit, and then I think we're ready. It will self-time out, so if you forget to turn it off, it just eventually turns itself off. That happened earlier before I started this video. And then up here we have a little micro, button pad. It's fairly easy to reach when you're holding the grip. It's got a plus and a minus, and that's going to increase your levels of assist. There are 3 levels. The top one's going to get you to that 18 mile per hour top assisted speed. And I think that's about it. You don't get the fancy display that says how far you've gone, how fast you're going, how much battery remains. What you have to do is rely on this little circular LED down here to go from blue to orange to red to give you some idea of I guess how full the battery is and how far you can go. I estimated this at 20 to 40 miles. That might be a little bit generous. It totally depends on how heavy you are, the terrain, the wind. Yeah, there's a lot of factors. Are you carrying a bunch of gear on that rack? Yeah, so I don't know. Hub motors don't tend to be as efficient as mid-drives, but they also don't complicate the drivetrain. It doesn't matter what gear you're in. it really doesn't even matter if you're pushing that much. You're just moving the cranks and that thing's gonna go, and it's always gonna feel pretty zippy. So let's get out there. I'm gonna take it for a spin around the block and give you some up close shots. Should be a little bit quieter now. I just really wanted to get that beautiful tree earlier. So we've got the smaller, this is the 26, this is the 2017, the newest model. Just wanted to give you a look again, and notice how the fork is angled out a little bit. So it brings the wheel out, which is nice, so you don't hit your toe on that fender. It also just makes it more relaxed and stable feeling when they do that versus a fork that's directly like 90 degrees down. So that's cool. Also, I've raised the seat almost as high as it can go just to demonstrate that you really can get good reach. This actually feels pretty good, pretty comfortable for me pedaling. I'm 5'9", and I have like a 31-inch inseam. So, you know, this is the kind of bike that even at the smaller size, maybe you could share with someone. Someone's a little smaller, they drop the seat. Someone who's a little taller, they can raise it up and you can both enjoy it. I'm gonna leave the handlebars upright, so my reach is I'm gonna be really close, but sometimes that's nice because I'll be able to spot my ride and keep an eye out for cars. So it's already powered up. I'm on the third level of assist, just so you can hear that motor a little bit more pronounced. And then these pedals, that's the final thing. I'm a big fan of Welgo. They have larger aluminum alloy platforms like this that give you a little bit more surface area, but these are kind of cool. Give you more traction up at the front. They're get metal versus plastic, so they should be tough if the bike tips, and they just look nice. They match the frame. So there we go. Getting ready and starting. You can hear it's fairly responsive. I'm not getting like the world's most powerful experience here, and I'm on flat street. I don't know how fast I'm going. I'm not going super fast, but it works. You know, it goes. It's zippy. Let's go through this yield sign here, and now I'm gonna go a little bit faster. Try to get some max speed going. I can still hear the motor, and this feels like it would be about 20 miles per hour. You know, it's capable, especially in the neighborhood. Like this kind of setting is perfect for this bike. See my body position. It's working pretty well. And then the trigger shifters over here, again, they're Shimano Dior as well. So they work a little bit better than some of the lower end parts. Sometimes there's this big thumb shifter that gets in the way. These are sportier. There's the bottom, makes it easier, and then the top, that higher gear makes it harder. And the top one can be pushed forward or back. So that's cool. It's nice to have both of those options. Now I'm gonna take it down to the lowest level of assist. Probably won't hear the motor much at all, and we're not gonna get going very fast, but that's nice if you wanna extend your range, maybe just take the edge off the extra weight on the bike, the wind, maybe you're going through a craft fair or something, people are all around, you don't wanna, you know, get out of control. Really smooth. You can hear that paper rattling around. I didn't wanna take that off because this is a brand new bike, but the fenders are very quiet. I'll do no hands here. And kind of jerk the frame back and forth a little bit. It's very stable. Without a suspension fork, you do feel it a little bit more when you hit a curb or go over some bumps, but it's really not too bad. Those tires, I think they have 30 to 65 PSI rating, maybe 30 to 70 on the Schwabe. So you could lower them a little bit. It wouldn't be as efficient, but it would smooth out some of those bumps and act as a natural kind of a shock absorber. I think that's it. That's the BESV CF1 neighborhood. Fun cruiser, almost a cruiser. The handlebars are a little bit more active than that, but fun electric bike. For the full write-up on this with all the specs, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. Of course, have fun out there. Ride safe.